I spent a decade in the shadows of sound stages holding a boom pole, and I can tell you the industry is built on a specific lie, the idea that movie stars actually want to be there. Most actors are terrified of saying the wrong thing, sweating under their pancake makeup, while a PR agent stands just off camera with a metaphorical leash. Then there is Harrison Ford. Look at the way he sits in a press junket chair. He isn't leaning in to charm the interviewer. He is slumped back like a man waiting for a root canal. The truth is, Ford's legendary bluntness is the pharmacon of Hollywood. It is the cure for the industry's suffocating artificiality, but it is also the poison that makes him the most dangerous man to put on a live broadcast. In 1977, on the set of A New Hope, the script was a mess of dense, pseudo-scientific technobabble. Most actors would have politely asked for a rewrite to protect their craft. Ford looked George Lucas dead in the eye and uttered the line that defined his career. "George, you can type this shit, but you can't say it." That wasn't a joke. It was a demolition. Subscribe right now as a commitment to unbrainwashing yourself from the polished fake garbage the studios feed you daily. If you want to see the gears behind the clock, you stay here. Think about the 2023 Cannes Film Festival. Ford is standing there, 80 years old, watching a 5-minute standing ovation for Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. His eyes are watery. The world sees a sentimental legend. But look closer at his physical posture. His hands are shoved deep into his pockets, his jaw set in a way that suggests he'd rather be back in his hangar in Santa Monica fixing a vintage engine. He hates the pedestal. During the filming of The Fugitive, he famously clashed with director Andrew Davis because he didn't want his character, Richard Kimball, to be a superhero. He wanted him to be a tired, grumpy man in a cheap suit. He fought for the grime. If you are one of the select few who actually understand that authenticity is a rare metal in a world of tinsel, then join our secret club by hitting that subscribe button. We don't do fluff here. Strip away the emotion and look at the data. Ford's most successful films are the ones where he looks the most profoundly annoyed. The poison is the product. When he crashed his vintage PT-22 Recruit on a Penmar golf course in 2015, shattering his ankle and pelvis, he didn't wake up in the hospital asking about his Q rating. He asked about the mechanics of the engine failure. He is a carpenter who got lucky, and he treats every script like a piece of warped plywood that needs a heavy sander. He ruins the magic of cinema because he knows the magic is a marketing scam. He is the only man in Hollywood who treats a billion-dollar franchise like a shift at a factory. And that is exactly why he is the only one we trust. Look at his hands. Truly look at them. They are not the soft, manicured hands of a man who spent 60 years under the gentle glow of vanity mirrors and the cooling breeze of craft services fans. These are the hands of a technician. They are scarred, thick-knuckled, and often stained with the phantom grease of a radial engine or the persistent dust of kiln-dried oak. To understand Harrison Ford, you have to ignore the glowing press junkets and instead look at the way he grips a wrench. In 1970, Harrison Ford wasn't dreaming of a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. He was standing on a roof in the blistering California sun, hammer in hand, terrified that he couldn't support his wife and 2 sons. He had been chewed up and spat out by the studio system's contract player era, told by a self-important executive that he lacked star quality because he didn't look like a leading man when he walked into a room. The executive was right, but for the wrong reasons. Ford didn't look like a star because he looked like a guy who knew how to fix your plumbing. And so he quit. He bought a set of professional-grade tools and taught himself carpentry using library books. He wasn't playing a role, he was surviving. When he built a recording studio for Sergio Mendes, he did it with the same clinical precision he would later use to dissect a script. He wasn't finding his character. He was making sure the joints were flush and the weight was distributed correctly. You there watching this. You've been told that success in Hollywood is about charisma and the spark. That is a convenient lie told by people who want to sell you a dream. The reality is that Ford's career was built on the back of a door. Literally. He was installing a door at American Zoetrope for George Lucas when the director asked him to read lines with other actors for a space opera. Ford didn't want the part. He was annoyed. He had a deadline for the woodwork. He read the lines with a sneer, a sense of, let's get this over with so I can go back to my real work. That irritation, that absolute lack of desperation, was exactly what Han Solo needed. It was the smell of sawdust and the reality of a mortgage. Remove the emotion and look at the physical record. In 1968, Ford was driving a Volvo in Laguna Canyon. He lost control. He hit a telephone pole so hard, his face slammed into the steering wheel, slicing a deep, jagged canyon into his chin. He didn't rush to a plastic surgeon to preserve his million-dollar face. He let it heal into a permanent mark of human error. Decades later, when the scripts for Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade needed to explain that scar, they invented a scene with a whip. But the truth is much grittier. It was just a man, a car, and a pole. The scar is a physical reminder that Ford belongs to the world of physics, not the world of icons. Focus on the production of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom in 1983. The humidity in Sri Lanka was oppressive. The schedule was grueling. During a fight scene in a cramped palace bedroom, Ford's back didn't just hurt, it gave way. A disc in his spine herniated so severely that he was nearly paralyzed. He didn't ask for a stunt double to take over the dramatic heavy lifting. He flew back to Los Angeles, underwent an experimental procedure where they injected a papaya enzyme called chymopapain into his spine to dissolve the damaged tissue, and then he went right back to the of a man in agonizing physical pain, gritting his teeth because the job isn't finished. The industry wants you to believe in the magic of cinema, but Ford treats a film set like a construction site. There is a famous story from the set of Raiders of the Lost Ark. The script called for a 3-day complex sword fight between Indy and a formidable assassin in the streets of Cairo. The heat was touching 100 degrees. The entire crew had dysentery. Ford looked at the director, Steven Spielberg, and realized the plan was a waste of time and health. He didn't propose a creative alternative. He proposed a mechanical solution. Why don't I just shoot the sucker? One take, one bullet. The most iconic moment in action history wasn't born from artistic inspiration. It was born from a man wanting to go back to his trailer and lie down. Don't let the glossy posters fool you. Ford's true office is the cockpit of a helicopter or a vintage plane. In 2015, when his 1942 Ryan PT-22 recruit lost power over Santa Monica, he didn't panic. He didn't pray. He became a systems manager. He identified the engine failure, calculated the glide slope, and intentionally steered away from residential houses toward a golf course. He hit the ground at 80 miles per hour. When the first responders arrived, they found a 72-year-old man with a shattered pelvis and a broken ankle, calmly explaining the mechanical sequence of the crash. He wasn't a movie star in that moment. He was a pilot who had successfully managed a forced landing. You might think his famous grumpiness in interviews is an act. It isn't. It is the sincere reaction of a craftsman being asked to explain the soul of a table he built 40 years ago. To him, the table is just wood and glue. The movie is just light and shadow. He refuses to participate in the collective delusion that acting is a sacred calling. If you've ever seen him on a talk show, slouching in his chair, giving one-word answers, you're seeing a man who is wondering if he left the lights on in his hangar. This isn't a lack of respect for the audience. It is the ultimate form of respect. He refuses to lie to you. He won't pretend that a green screen is a jungle or that a plastic prop is a holy relic. He provides the one thing that money and CGI can't buy, the weight of a real man who knows how to use his hands. When he plays a father, a fugitive, or a smuggler, he brings the exhaustion of the 1970s carpentry circuit with him. Look at the way he holds a gun in his films. He doesn't hold it like a stylized action hero. He holds it like a tool, heavy, dangerous, unpleasant. In The Fugitive, there is a scene where he's cornered in a storm drain. He's dirty, his hair is a mess, and he looks genuinely terrified. That wasn't a choice made by a stylist. That was Ford insisting on being underprepared, so the fear would be authentic. He wanted the audience to see the sweat, not the makeup. If you are tired of the polished, soulless mannequins that populate modern blockbusters, you need to study the Ford method. It isn't about method acting or losing weight for a role. It's about being the most honest object in the frame. He is a rock. He is a piece of weathered granite that the waves of Hollywood vanity crash against and break. He hasn't changed his hair, his attitude, or his skepticism in half a century. The industry calls him a legend, but if you called him that to his face, he'd probably tell you to get out of the way so he could finish whatever he was working on. He is the silent witness to the death of the real man in cinema. He is the last of the blue-collar giants. When he finally retires, he won't be missed for his range. He will be missed because he was the only person on screen who looked like he knew how to build the house he was standing in. Next time you watch a Harrison Ford movie, don't look at the explosions. Look at the way he touches a control panel or handles a map. Look at the scars on his knuckles. That is the only truth Hollywood has left. Every time he sighs on screen, it's not just the character. It's a man who has seen the bullshit of the world and decided that a well-placed nail is worth more than 1,000 scripts. He is the carpenter of our collective imagination, and he's still making sure the joints are tight. If you want to understand the mechanics of reality in a world of digital lies, you're in the right place. Subscribe to this channel. We don't deal in the magic of the movies. We deal in the physics of the truth. We analyze the gears, the grease, and the grit. Join us, or keep buying the plastic dreams they sell you at the box office. The choice is yours. We're staying here, in the hangar, looking at the engine. The camera lens is the ultimate silent witness to the slow, agonizing erosion of the human face in modern cinema. If you look closely at the 4K transfers of Ford's later work, you aren't seeing a movie star performing a role. You are observing the physics of a man who refused to be sanded down by the industry's abrasive vanity. In his Jackson Hole workshop, the scent of cedar and sawdust clings to his skin more naturally than any expensive cologne ever could. This is where the pharmacon of Harrison Ford truly resides. His absolute refusal to engage with the performative glitter of Hollywood is the poison that makes him a nightmare for PR agents and red carpet hosts who desperately want a soundbite. Yet that exact same refusal is the cure for an audience suffocating under the weight of plastic, hyper-saturated superheroes. He is the bitter medicine that reminds us what a real human being looks like when they are tired, angry, or genuinely impressed. The floorboards of the Millennium Falcon didn't just support a character named Han Solo. They supported a man who knew exactly how they were bolted together. There is a specific tactile intelligence in the way he moves through a space. When he reaches for a lever, his hand doesn't hover with the uncertainty of a man waiting for a visual effects artist to tell him where the light will be. He grabs it with the muscle memory of a person who has spent his weekends fixing the hydraulic systems on his own fleet of vintage aircraft. The scars on his chin and the roughness of his voice are the physical dividends of a life lived in direct contact with the material world. This is the reality that the digital era cannot simulate. You can't code the way a man's eyes narrow when he's calculating the wind shear on a landing strip. And you certainly can't manufacture the weary dignity of a craftsman who realizes the world is beginning to prefer the cheap, disposable substitute over the hand-forged original. The industry has spent the last decade trying to find the next Harrison Ford, scouring casting calls for young men with the right chin or the right smirk. They are failing because they are looking for a face when they should be looking for a toolbox. They want the result without the labor. They want the cure without the poison of the work itself. If this deep dive into the structural integrity of a cinematic icon has given you a clearer lens through which to view the art of the real, then your place is here among those who demand more than digital smoke and mirrors. Subscribe to this channel if you have realized that understanding the mechanics of a legend is the only way to survive a culture of shallow imitations. We don't provide distractions. We provide the blueprint for seeing the world as it actually is, one heavy, unvarnished truth at a time. The immediate future of cinema is already written in the code of the servers, currently rendering the next batch of hollow blockbusters. Tomorrow, a major studio will announce a project featuring a digitally de-aged, AI-generated version of a classic star, promising a return to the glory days. They will claim it is a tribute, a way to keep the magic alive forever. But it will be a catastrophic failure of the spirit. The audience will look into those perfect, unaging digital eyes and feel a profound instinctive sense of revulsion. They will realize, perhaps for the first time, that the beauty of Harrison Ford wasn't in the absence of flaws, but in the presence of the struggle. The prediction is simple. As the world becomes increasingly saturated with flawless, simulated humans, the value of a single genuine exhausted sigh from a man who actually knows how to use a hammer will become the most expensive commodity on Earth. The digital ghosts will proliferate, but the ghost in the machine will never be able to replicate the weight of a life lived in the sun. We are approaching the era of the great realization, where the rust on a real truck will be worth more than 1,000 pristine virtual empires.